The red warning lights of Xena Rhodes's escape pod flickered weakly as it drifted through the debris field of what was once New Haven Colony. At 16, she hadn't expected to be the sole survivor of humanity's furthest outpost. 3 weeks had passed since the Nexus Collective's attack, 3 weeks of rationing oxygen and watching the stars through cracked view screens. Xena pulled her knees closer to her chest, trying to conserve warmth as the pod's heating systems continued to fail. Her dark curls floated in the zero gravity, reminding her of how her father used to joke about space hair. The memory brought tears to her eyes, but they wouldn't fall, dehydration had taken care of that days ago. The pod sensors chirped unexpectedly, detecting a massive structure ahead. Xena pressed her face against the viewport, expecting to see another Nexus warship with its characteristic crystalline spires. Instead, she saw something that made her breath catch in her throat. Half buried in an asteroid's cratered surface lay what appeared to be a sleeping dragon. Its metallic scales shimmered with an iridescent blue-green hue, even in the dim starlight. 2 massive wings were folded against its body, and its long neck ended in a head that looked both organic and mechanical at the same time. The pod's trajectory was taking her directly toward it. Xena tried to adjust course, but the maneuvering thruster sputtered and died. She braced for impact as the pod scraped against the asteroid's surface, coming to rest near one of the dragon's massive claws. With her oxygen running critically low, Xena had 2 choices: stay in the pod and die, or risk everything on an EVA to the mysterious structure. She checked her suit seals one last time and activated her magnetic boots. The airlock cycled with a wheeze, and she stepped out into the void. Each step toward the dragon vessel sent vibrations through her boots. As she got closer, she noticed patterns etched into its scales, not random designs, but what appeared to be ancient writing in a script she'd never seen before. The surface wasn't cold like normal whole metal, it retained a faint warmth that she could feel even through her gloves. "Hello?" she transmitted on all frequencies, knowing it was foolish to expect a response from what was clearly a derelict vessel. But as soon as her voice carried through the comm, the dragon's surface began to pulse with soft blue light. A seam appeared in the hull, widening into an entrance. Xena hesitated, but the critical oxygen warning in her suit made the decision for her. She stepped inside, and the opening sealed behind her. The chamber pressurized, and a soft voice spoke directly into her mind. "Welcome, young one. I am Helios, and I have waited a very long time for someone like you." Xena spun around, trying to locate the source of the voice. "Where are you? What is this place?" "I am the vessel you stand within. I am both ship and sentient being, created by an alliance between humans and the Stellar Guardians, long before the Nexus Collective began their crusade of destruction." The internal lights brightened, revealing corridors that seemed to pulse with life. Xena removed her helmet, breathing in air that smelled like morning dew. "Why me? Why now?" "Because you possess what we call the resonance, the ability to form a neural bond with beings like myself. It is incredibly rare, and without it, I cannot function at full capacity." The Nexus Collective feared this connection between humans and the Guardians' technology. It is why they seek to eliminate humanity. Xena's mind raced with questions, but before she could ask them, Helios's internal systems flashed red. "Multiple Nexus vessels approaching. We must evade or engage. Will you accept the neural link, Xena Rhodes? Will you become my pilot?" She thought of her family, her colony, everything the Nexus had taken from her. "How do we form this bond?" "Place your hand on the control interface." Helios guided her to a crystalline panel that emerged from the wall. "But be warned, once formed, this connection cannot be broken. We will be linked until death parts us." Xena took a deep breath and pressed her palm against the crystal. Energy surged through her body as Helios's consciousness merged with her own. Information flooded her mind: weapon systems, navigation controls, shield harmonics. She gasped as she felt the dragon vessel become an extension of herself. Through external sensors, she saw 3 Nexus ships emerging from Fold space, their weapons charging. Fear gripped her heart, but Helios's presence steadied her. "We face this together," the dragon vessel's voice resonated in her mind. "Are you ready to fight back?" Xena squared her shoulders, feeling the power thrumming through Helios's systems. The same power that had taken everything from her was now within her grasp to command. "Show me how to fly." The dragon vessel's wings unfurled, shedding centuries of cosmic dust. Energy coursed through ancient weapons as targeting systems came online. Through their shared consciousness, Xena felt Helios's fierce joy at having a pilot once again. The battle for survival was about to begin, and this time, humanity had a guardian dragon on its side. The neural link between Xena and Helios blazed to life as the Nexus warships opened fire. Streams of crystalline energy cut through space, but Xena's newly acquired instincts guided her response. Helios's massive form twisted with impossible grace, the shots harmlessly dispersing against the asteroid field behind them. "Your neural adaptation is exceptional," Helios commented as they dove beneath a barrage of fire. "Most pilots require days to achieve basic maneuvering control." "Less talking, more teaching," Xena replied through gritted teeth. Her mind struggled to process the flood of tactical data streaming through their shared consciousness. "How do we fight back?" "We possess 3 primary weapon systems," Helios explained while executing another evasive maneuver. "Plasma breath, quantum talons, and singularity spheres. Start with plasma breath, focus your thoughts on my forward arrays." Xena concentrated, feeling energy build in what she now understood was Helios's throat mechanism. A surge of heat flowed through their shared neural pathways, and a stream of blue-white plasma erupted from the dragon vessel's maw. The blast caught one of the Nexus ships along its port side, shattering its crystalline armor. "Good," Helios praised, banking hard to avoid retaliatory fire. "But they're calling for reinforcements. We need to end this quickly." The damaged Nexus ship split into smaller attack craft, each one launching salvos of energy torpedoes. Xena felt overwhelmed by the multiple targets, but Helios's combat protocols merged with her intuition. Together, they activated the quantum talons, energy fields extending from Helios's claws that could tear through enemy shields like paper. "I'm starting to understand," Xena said as they shredded through 2 attack craft. "You're not just a ship or a weapon. You're a bridge between human instinct and advanced technology." "Precisely," Helios replied. "The Stellar Guardians believe that only through true symbiosis could either of our species reach their full potential. The Nexus Collective sees such bonds as an abomination." Their conversation was cut short as the remaining Nexus warship launched a massive gravity pulse. The attack caught them off guard, and Xena felt Helios's system strain against the crushing force. Warning signals flashed through their neural link as structural integrity began to fail. "Singularity spheres," Helios commanded. "Focus your anger, your grief, all of it. The weapons respond to emotion as much as thought." Xena closed her eyes, remembering the destruction of New Haven, the loss of her family, the weeks spent drifting alone in space. She channeled every ounce of pain and rage through their neural bond. Helios's chest plates opened, revealing arrays of dark energy projectors. 3 black spheres launched toward the Nexus warship, each one containing a microscopic artificial black hole. The enemy vessel's shields collapsed as space itself twisted around it. In seconds, the massive ship was torn apart, its crystalline structure shattering into countless glittering fragments. As the battle debris settled, Xena slumped in the neural interface chamber, physically and emotionally drained. "That was intense. You performed admirably," Helios said, his internal systems dimming to a more comfortable level. "But this was only the beginning. The Nexus Collective will send more ships once they realize one of the Guardian vessels has awakened. Then we need to find others." Xena straightened, wincing at her sore muscles. "There must be more survivors out there, more people fighting back." "There are," Helios confirmed. "I'm detecting encrypted transmissions from several sectors." But reaching them will be dangerous. The space between here and the nearest resistance outpost is heavily patrolled. How long will it take us to get there? At maximum speed, 3 days. But we'll need to make several stops to recharge my energy cores. The battle drained more power than anticipated. Xena nodded, feeling Helios's fatigue through their connection. Then teach me everything you can while we travel. I want to understand all of your systems, your history, everything about the Stellar Guardians. Very well, Helios replied, a note of pride in his mental voice. But first, you should rest. The Neuralink taxes human physiology, especially during combat. I've prepared a stasis chamber that will help you recover. As Xena made her way through Helios's internal corridors, she marveled at how quickly this had become her new normal. Yesterday, she had been a desperate survivor in a failing escape pod. Now, she was the pilot of an ancient dragon vessel, fighting back against humanity's greatest enemy. Helios, she called out as she settled into the stasis chamber. Thank you for choosing me. I didn't choose you, young one, the dragon vessel responded softly. The resonance did. Now sleep. When you wake, your real training begins. The stasis field activated, and Xena drifted off to sleep, dreaming of plasma breath and quantum talons, of lost colonies and future battles. In her dreams, she soared through the stars on wings of light, no longer prey, but predator. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Nexus Collective received word that a Guardian vessel had awakened. Orders were given, fleets were mobilized, and the hunt began. The war for humanity's survival was about to enter a new phase. The hidden resistance base of Haven's Deep wasn't what Xena expected. Carved into the core of a massive asteroid, its winding tunnels housed thousands of survivors from various fallen colonies. As Helios docked in a cavernous hangar, Xena watched crowds gather to stare at the dragon vessel's imposing form. They're afraid of us, she observed through their neural link. They're afraid of change, Helios corrected. Most humans believed the Guardian vessels were myths. Our arrival changes everything they thought they knew about the war. A delegation approached as Xena descended from Helios's access ramp. Leading them was Commander Raven Walsh, a stern-faced woman with silver-streaked hair and cybernetic implants visible along her jawline. Behind her stood Dr. Thaddeus Pike, the Resistance's lead scientist, his eyes wide with fascination as he studied Helios's biomechanical form. Welcome to Haven's Deep, Commander Walsh said, her voice carrying authority earned through years of fighting. When our sensors detected a Guardian vessel, we thought it was a malfunction. It's been 3 centuries since anyone's seen one. 300 years. Xena glanced back at Helios. You didn't tell me you were that old. Age is relative when you spend most of it in stasis, Helios responded, his voice projected so everyone could hear. Several resistance members stepped back in surprise. Dr. Pike pushed forward, his enthusiasm overriding protocol. Fascinating. A true artificial consciousness merged with advanced biomechanical systems. The neural interface alone must be decades beyond anything we've developed. That's why we need your help, Xena said, addressing Commander Walsh. Helios's energy cores aren't fully charged, and we've learned there are other Guardian vessels out there, dormant, waiting for compatible pilots. Walsh's cybernetic eye whirred as she studied Xena. You're asking us to commit resources to a treasure hunt while we're barely surviving ourselves. Why should we risk it? Because she's right, a new voice called out. Through the crowd came Lyra Jean, her dark armor bearing the marks of countless battles. The legendary scout was known for leading missions deep into Nexus territory. Show them what you showed me, Commander. Walsh hesitated, then activated a holographic display. 3 hours ago, our long-range scouts detected this. The image showed massive Nexus fleet movements, dozens of warships converging on specific coordinates. They're hunting Guardian vessels, Helios announced. They know I've awakened, and they fear others will follow. We must find them first. And if we do, Walsh challenged. What's to stop the Nexus from overwhelming us with sheer numbers? Even a Guardian vessel can be destroyed. Xena stepped forward, her voice stronger than she felt. Because the Guardians left us more than just vessels. Helios, show them. Through their neural link, Helios projected a series of complex star charts. Before the stellar Guardians vanished, they created weapons capable of closing the dimensional rifts the Nexus uses for faster-than-light travel. Find the other vessels, unite their powers, and we can trap the Nexus in normal space where they're vulnerable. A murmur ran through the crowd. Dr. Pike's hands moved rapidly over his data pad. The energy requirements would be astronomical, but theoretically possible. With multiple Guardian vessels working in concert. It's still a massive risk, Walsh interrupted. But. She looked at the holographic fleet movements again, it might be our only chance. Lyra, assemble your best scouts. Dr. Pike, gather whatever data you can from the Guardian vessel. We need to move fast. As the crowd dispersed to prepare, Xena felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find Lyra studying her with intense green eyes. I was wrong about you, kid. When you first contacted us, I thought you were another refugee looking for shelter. But you're something else entirely. I'm just trying to survive, like everyone else. Lyra smiled, the expression transforming her battle-hardened face. No, you're trying to win. There's a difference. Come on, while they're prepping the search teams, I'll show you our combat simulators. You'll need more than just Helios's instincts where we're going. Over the next few hours, Xena learned that Haven's Deep was more than a hideout, it was a fortress, a training ground, and perhaps humanity's last real hope. In the simulator, Lyra taught her combat maneuvers that complemented Helios's abilities. Dr. Pike's team began analyzing the Dragon vessel's technology, hoping to improve their own weapons. But it was Commander Walsh who provided the most shocking revelation. Late in the station's night cycle, she called Xena to her private quarters. There's something you need to know, Walsh said, pulling up classified files. The Nexus Collective isn't just hunting Guardian vessels. They're hunting specific bloodlines, families with genetic markers that make them compatible as pilots. Your family, Xena. That's why they attacked New Haven first. Xena stared at the genetic profiles on screen, her hands trembling. You're saying they killed everyone I loved because of what I might become? I'm saying they feared what you already were. But they made a mistake. Walsh's cybernetic eye glowed fiercely. They should have killed you first. As Xena left Walsh's quarters, her mind reeling from these revelations, Helios's presence in her thoughts was a steady comfort. Does this change anything? The Dragon vessel asked. It changes everything, Xena replied, watching Haven's Deep's artificial sunset through a viewport. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for justice. The next morning, 3 scout teams would launch into Nexus space, searching for dormant Guardian vessels. Xena and Helios would lead them, carrying humanity's hopes on their biomechanical wings. The real war was about to begin. The vast expanse of the Crimson Nebula burned around them as Helios led the Resistance fleet through enemy territory. 3 weeks of searching had yielded both victories and heartbreak. They'd found 2 more Guardian vessels, but lost an entire scout team to a Nexus patrol. Multiple signatures ahead, Helios reported through their neural link. Refugee ships, heavily damaged. Nexus pursuit craft closing fast. Xena's hands tightened on the neural interface controls. How many civilians? Approximately 300 aboard 3 vessels. Their engines are failing. They won't reach the jump point. The Resistance fleet consisted of only 5 ships now, Helios, 2 combat frigates, and the 2 newly awakened Guardian vessels. The first, Kronos, was piloted by Lyra Jean herself, who discovered her own resonance ability. The second, Aurora, had bonded with a young engineer named Dante Rivera. Lyra, Dante, form up on my wings, Xena commanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Haven's deep, this is Xena. We've found survivors, but we'll need backup. Commander Walsh's voice crackled through the calm negative. The Nexus has blocked all reinforcement routes. You're on your own out there. Xena watched the tactical display as 15 Nexus pursuit craft closed in on the refugee ships. They were smaller than warships but faster, designed specifically for hunting down escapees. We can't take on that many, Dante protested, Aurora's silver form shimmering with nervous energy. Even with 3 Guardian vessels. We're not leaving them, Xena cut him off. Helios, show me targeting solutions. Lyra, your Kronos has the best stealth systems. Get behind them and disrupt their formation. Dante, Aurora's shields can protect the refugee ships while they make emergency repairs. Through their neural link, Helios projected admiration. Your tactical instincts have improved dramatically. I had good teachers, Xena replied, remembering long hours in Haven's deep simulators with Lyra and Dr. Pike. Now, let's show the Nexus what Guardian vessels can really do. The battle erupted in a symphony of energy weapons and quantum fields. Kronos vanished into stealth mode, appearing only to tear through enemy ships with its phase blades. Aurora's crystalline shields sparkled as they absorbed Nexus fire, giving the refugee crews precious time to work. Helios and Xena moved like one being, their shared consciousness processing combat data faster than any normal human could. Plasma breath scattered enemy formations while quantum talons shredded through hull plating. But the Nexus pilots were skilled, and their numbers told. A lucky shot pierced Aurora's shields, sending Dante's Guardian vessel spinning. 2 refugee ships reported critical damage. We need something bigger, Xena muttered, watching more Nexus reinforcements arrive. Then she remembered their training sessions with Dr. Pike. Helios, remember that theoretical maneuver we discussed? The one Pike said would probably kill us. The Trinity convergence. Helios's mental voice carried concern. It's never been attempted with Guardian vessels. The power synchronization alone could tear us apart. Lyra, Dante, Xena broadcast. Form a triangle around the refugee ships. We're going to try something incredibly stupid. Those are my favorite kinds of plans, Lyra replied, Kronos already moving into position. Through their neural links, the 3 Guardian vessels began to synchronize their energy cores. Xena felt the power building, far beyond anything she'd experienced before. Her vision blurred as the neural load increased. Xena, your vital signs are reaching critical levels, Helios warned. Keep going, she gasped. Everyone else, close your eyes. The 3 Guardian vessels released their energy simultaneously. The power converged at the center of their formation, creating a quantum shockwave that expanded outward. Nexus pursuit craft caught in the wave simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to pure energy. When the light faded, the remaining Nexus ships fled, leaving their wreckage behind. The refugee ships reported their engines back online, but Xena barely heard them. Blood trickled from her nose as the neural feedback threatened to overwhelm her. Stay with me, young one, Helios's voice seemed distant. Your mind is strong, but we pushed too far. Lyra's voice cut through the haze. Get her back to Haven's Deep now. Dr. Pike, prep the neural stabilization chamber. We're coming in hot. As consciousness faded, Xena saw the refugee ships jump to safety. Her last thought was of satisfaction, they'd saved them all. Then darkness took her, and she dreamed of flying through stars that sang with ancient power. She awoke 3 days later in Haven's Deep's medical bay. Dr. Pike stood over her, checking neural readings with a concerned expression. You're either the bravest or the most foolish pilot I've ever met, he said. Probably both. Did it work? Xena's voice was hoarse. The Trinity convergence. It did more than work, Commander Walsh said, stepping into view. You proved Guardian vessels can combine their powers. The Nexus is running scared, pulling back to fortified positions. But more importantly, you gave people hope. Through their neural link, still tender but intact, Helios added, you also proved that humans and Guardian vessels are stronger together than anyone imagined. The Stellar Guardians would be proud. Xena tried to sit up but found her body wouldn't cooperate. How long until I can fly again? At least a week, Pike answered. Your neural pathways need time to heal. But when you're ready. He smiled, we think we've found something big. Really big. What do you mean? Walsh activated a holographic display showing a massive energy signature deep in Nexus space. We think it's their central hive, where they first entered our dimension. And thanks to your Trinity convergence, we finally know how to shut it down. Get some rest, Lyra added from the doorway, her own neural implants still glowing from the battle. You're going to need it. Because next time, we're taking the fight to them. Xena closed her eyes, feeling Helios's presence in her mind like a warm embrace. They'd survived their trial by fire, but the real test was still to come. The final battle for humanity's future loomed ahead, and this time, they'd be ready. Operation Starfall began at the edge of known space, where reality itself grew thin. 7 Guardian vessels hung in formation around Haven's Deep's remaining fleet, their pilots linked not just to their dragons, but to each other through Dr. Pike's experimental neural network. Neural synchronization at 97%, Helios reported as Xena felt the thoughts of her fellow pilots brush against her consciousness. The dimensional barrier is ahead. Through the fleet's shared vision, she saw the Nexus Hive, a massive structure of living crystal and dark energy that pulsed like a malignant heart. Around it swarmed hundreds of Nexus warships, their weapons charged and waiting. Remember the plan, Commander Walsh's voice reached them from Haven's Deep's command ship. The Guardian vessels must breach their defenses and reach the dimensional anchor points. Everything else is a distraction. A distraction with teeth, Lyra added from aboard Kronos. 6 months of searching had yielded 5 more Guardian vessels and their pilots. Each brought unique abilities to their growing squadron. Xena took a deep breath, feeling Helios's strength flow through her. All pilots, execute primary maneuver. For Earth, for New Haven, for everyone we've lost. The battle erupted like a newborn star. Haven's Deep's fleet engaged the outer defense lines while the Guardian vessels split into their assigned teams. Helios and Kronos led the first strike, their combined powers tearing through Nexus formations. Multiple capital ships on intercept, Dante warned from Aurora's cockpit. They're using some kind of quantum disruption field. Xena felt the interference trying to break their neural links, but Dr. Pike's modifications held. Press the attack. We won't get another chance at this. Through their shared consciousness, she witnessed the battle from 7 perspectives simultaneously. Guardian vessels danced through space like legendary creatures come to life, breathing plasma, slicing with quantum talons, weaving impossible patterns with their combined powers. But the Nexus had prepared for this assault. From the hive structure emerged something new, corrupted versions of Guardian vessels, twisted by Nexus technology into nightmarish shapes. Impossible, Helios's mental voice carried genuine fear. They've corrupted my fallen brothers. No time for grief, Lyra shouted as Kronos barely dodged a blast of dark energy. Xena, we need the Trinity convergence. Not yet, Xena replied, guiding Helios through a series of evasive maneuvers. We only get one shot at their dimensional anchor. Everyone fall back to Point Sigma. The Guardian squadron regrouped, forming a 7-pointed star formation. Around them, Haven's Deep's fleet was taking heavy losses, but they'd succeeded in drawing away most of the Nexus defenders. Through their neural link, Xena felt Helios's presence strengthen. I understand now, the Dragon vessel said. The Trinity convergence was just the beginning. With 7 of us. We can create a septimal resonance, Xena finished. Dr. Pike, are you seeing this? The energy readings are off the charts, Pike's excited voice came through. If you can sustain it, the combined power should be enough to collapse their dimensional gateway. Commander Walsh's voice followed, tense but determined. Whatever you're going to do it fast. We're losing ships out here. Xena closed her eyes, feeling the other pilot's consciousness merge with her own. 7 humans, 7 guardian vessels, their powers harmonizing into something entirely new. The neural load was intense, threatening to overwhelm their minds. Together, she broadcast to them all. Everyone focus on your strongest memory, the moment that drives you to fight. Through their shared vision, memories flowed like a river of light. Lyra remembering her family on Earth. Dante protecting his sister's refugee ship. Each pilot contributing their pain, their hope, their determination to the growing power. Xena added her own memory, not of New Haven's destruction, but of her first flight with Helios, the moment she realized humanity wasn't finished yet. The septimal resonance built to impossible levels. The 7 guardian vessels began to glow, their combined energy forming a lattice of pure light that expanded outward. The corrupted guardian vessels tried to intervene but were caught in the wave's power. Now! Xena commanded, and 7 voices answered as one. The release of energy was beyond anything their instruments could measure. The dimensional barrier around the Nexus hive began to collapse, reality itself bending under the strain. One by one, the corrupted guardian vessels returned to their original forms, their consciousnesses freed from Nexus control. The gateway is destabilizing, Helios reported as the hive structure began to implode. But the power feedback, we can't maintain this level of resonance. We don't need to, Xena replied, watching the Nexus fleet being drawn back into their home dimension. We just need to hold on long enough to seal the breach. Through breaking static, Commander Walsh's voice reached them, all ships, full retreat. The dimensional collapse is spreading. The 7 guardian vessels held their formation until the last possible moment, their pilots' minds linked in a shared symphony of power and purpose. When they finally broke away, the Nexus hive collapsed in on itself, taking its fleet with it. The dimensional gateway sealed with a flash of light that briefly outshone the nearest stars. In the aftermath, as Haven's deep surviving ships regrouped, Xena felt Helios's consciousness gently disengage from the neural network. It's over, she whispered, tasting blood from another nosebleed. We actually did it. No, Helios corrected gently. It's just beginning. The Nexus is trapped in their dimension, but humanity still needs to rebuild. And there are more guardian vessels out there, waiting to be found. Xena looked out at the starfield, now free of Nexus ships for the first time in generations. The other guardian vessels moved into formation around Helios, their pilot's thoughts still faintly echoing through their fading neural connection. Commander Walsh's voice came through once more, all ships, set course for Haven's Deep. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. Ready to help build something instead of just fighting? Xena asked Helios as they turned toward home. With you as my pilot? The dragon vessel's mental voice carried warmth and pride. Always. As they led the fleet back to Haven's Deep, Xena thought about everything that had brought her to this moment, loss and hope, desperation and triumph, the bond between human and guardian that had changed everything. The war was over, but their story was far from finished. After all, the stars were waiting.